Crazy Karen accuses me of kidnapping my own son, then tries to kidnap him from me, so I ruined her life. Here's what happened. First, a little backstory. I'm a mixed ethnicity individual. I've been confused for many races over the course of my 29 years on this planet, but I'm literally Caucasian and African American. Usually, it can be figured out, but the difference with me is my father's the Caucasian, so therefore my hair is straight. I'm originally from Texas, and I'm usually confused for being Mexican, but now I live in Massachusetts, and I've never had an issue with anyone concerning my race until this day. Also, I'm married to a Caucasian woman who had a child before we were married. His father is not in his life as much, and I took the responsibility because I love this woman and I love this little boy as if he were my own. He's 4 now, and I've been in his life since he was 1. Anyways, on to the story. My wife needed a few things from the grocery store, and she needed to run a few more errands, and usually she just goes and knocks things out herself because I'm sleeping. I work nights. But this particular day, I happened to be awake, and I offered to go for her. She works hard and does a lot, so I definitely felt it was necessary to do something for her so she could just relax for the day. I took my son with me so she could rest up and just take it easy, and it gave me time to spend with my son for some bonding. We completed all of the errands, which went smoothly, and then headed to the grocery store to finish up our day. My son, being a typical 4-year-old, was full of energy, running ahead of me, laughing and speaking to everyone he comes across, which I generally don't mind as long as he doesn't hit anyone and stays within eye view. As I'm making my way down an aisle looking for canned corn, my son jogs to the end of it when an older lady is entering at the other end. My son, being the sweet social butterfly he is, approached and exclaims in excited, "Hi, me 4, and me Ryan." Bless his little heart. The lady looked down and says, "Well, hello there. You shouldn't be running around unattended. Let's go find your parents." I didn't think anything of her statement because I assumed she just hadn't seen me. "Ryan, come back here, bud. Please." He excitedly runs back toward me and starts turning in circles because, he's 4. LOL. I'm still searching the shelves as the lady walks past me and stops behind me. Again, I think nothing of it because it's a grocery store and you have to share the aisles. I turn my basket around and start to walk toward the front cash registers when this lady literally blocks my path. I say, "Excuse me," and try to walk around her, and she moves her cart in front of me again. I honestly thought she was just getting confused and said, "Excuse me," once again, and tried one more time to go around, and she just blocks my path. The following convo ensues. Sorry about that, we'll get out of your way." Karen goes like, "Oh, I don't think so. You're not going anywhere with that child." "You mean my son?" "That's not your child. He's white, and you're Mexican. You probably didn't even know his name until he said it to me." "Sure, whatever, lady. Can you just move? My wife is at home and anxiously awaiting for us." "Stop your lies. You're not taking him anywhere, you pervert." This whole time, my son is standing close to me, holding my leg, because he was honestly getting scared. I was getting angry, because I hadn't had much sleep, and I have a short fuse anyway. So I tell her, "As you can see, he's standing close to me because he trusts me, and you're scaring him. So how about you buzz off?" "No, he's scared because of you. He just doesn't know how to express it yet." She looks at my son and tells him, "Come on now, sweetie. I'm here to rescue you. Come with me." Thankfully, my son was able to communicate to her he wasn't going anywhere with her, but she was having none of it. She literally grabbed my son and began to run. It caught me off guard because I honestly could not fathom what was actually happening. My son starts screaming loudly because he was so scared. And this lady is just like, "Don't worry, sweetie, he won't hurt you, I promise." I suddenly snap back into reality and I begin to chase after this crazy winch. While running through the store, I yell for people to stop her and that she's kidnapping my son. And thankfully, a worker stops her before she makes the exit. She screams, "Why are you stopping me? This Mexican here is trying to kidnap my grandson." My son literally is bawling his eyes out and extending his arms out, calling for me. This lady was relentless and would not let go, even after my son slaps her multiple times in the face. I laughed a little, not gonna lie. At this point, a manager shows up and asks what's going on. The lady spoke before me. She points at me and says, "This pervert is trying to kidnap my grandson, and I was just trying to escape." I couldn't fathom this lady's stupid brain. I screamed, "That's my son, you freaking psycho. Now let him go." The manager didn't know what to believe. I don't blame him. He was caught in a weird situation. So I pulled out my phone and showed him pictures of me and my son that dated a year or so back as proof. This lady still would not give up and accused me of faking them. Like, how would you do that exactly? I'll never know, but whatever. Sadly, there were two other ladies there taking the psycho's side and said I was attempting to kidnap my own son because there was no way we were family because of our different skin tones. One even called the police, which I was actually happy about because I knew they'd be able to review the security cameras. Even still, I called my wife to see if she could come to the store to get the situation cleared up quicker. As soon as I told her what was going on, she zoomed to the store. She got there by the same time as the police. The crazy ladies were giving their statement to the cops when my wife walked in. As soon as she walked in, my son goes, "Mama, help." My wife is a true mama bear, and she immediately flew into a rage when she saw this lady holding my son. "Let him go. Now," my wife said. The Karen then switches up her story and says, "Sorry, sweetie, I was just trying to protect him from this pervert over here." The random other lady says, "Yeah, we saw him trying to kidnap him, but this lady saved him." The cop looks at the lady and is confused. "I thought this was your grandson." My wife takes out her phone and shows the officer a picture of my mother-in-law. The Karen then says, "Okay, I'm sorry. He's not my grandson, but I was only trying to protect him from this dirty pervert over here." The random other lady then defends Karen, saying, "Yeah, I witnessed the whole thing. He snatched that child and tried to run away with him, but this lady stopped it." Her friend then also says, "Yeah, I saw it too. He needs to be arrested. And you," pointing to my wife, "should be thankful that this lady was here to save your son because you obviously just let him loose wherever." My wife was hella confused, and she says, "Who are you talking about again?" All three crazy ladies pointed at me. "Oh, you mean my husband?" my wife says. The three ladies look at each other and all said, "Your husband?" "Yeah, who do you think called me and got me here so fast?" I presented my ID to the officer, and the manager and my wife did the same. We also each showed pictures of us on our phones to prove we really were a family. The cop nodded in approval and handed us our phones back and jotted down a few notes. The three ladies, for some reason, still kept trying to say this was all fake, and my wife was in on the kidnapping and said we needed to be arrested. My wife lost it at this point and let off some colorful words I won't repeat here, but she definitely got her point across. Then the nail in the coffin came from the psycho trio. The officer turned to the manager and asked, "Sir, do the cameras work here?" The manager responds, "Yes, we have them inside and out." "Okay, great. Let's go review." The three ladies' faces went pale, like ghostly pale. The officer reviewed the outside camera as I pulled into the parking lot and saw me take my son out of my car. And then as I went up and down the aisles, and most importantly, the instance the woman snatched up my son and began to run. Upon his return, he asks, "Would you like to press charges?" The Karen then says, "Yes, I would." Mr. Officer then shuts her down saying, "Why would I be asking you that question? Shut your mouth and sit down." He turns to me and repeats the question. I respond, "Absolutely." Karen was charged with attempted kidnapping, false imprisonment, providing a false police report, and child endangerment. The other two were also charged with providing a false police report as well. To make matters worse for Karen, my son bruises easily, and she left some terrible spots on him from where she was grasping him. But he's fine. This added a charge of child abuse to her rap sheet. I have court later this year, but I'm not sure when because of COVID. The officer will be following up with me in a few weeks. This is one of those stories I dearly hope are fake, because bloody hell, the entitlement and stupidity of these people. Do you think this was a ruse to actually kidnap your son? This is just crazy. And the fact she was trying to leave and say it was her grandson? Did the other ladies know her? Seems to me like it might have been more of a kidnap attempt, and less of an entitled parent. Entitled and racist mother and daughter harass an older woman at the supermarket. As you all are most likely aware, there is a global pandemic. Therefore, as I am fortunate enough to work from home, I only leave the house if I have to meet a high-profile client, or I need to pick up some items I am unable to find online. Yesterday, I went to my local supermarket, grabbed the items I needed, and headed to the till to pay. I was behind an older woman who was not white. I absolutely detest that I have to point that out, but you will understand why shortly. The lady in front of me began loading her items. I asked if she needed some help as she seemed to struggle. It was then I realized English was not a language she could speak well. Fortunately, I took a guess at what language she spoke and was correct. I used to specialize in immigration law, and throughout my time as an immigration lawyer, I did manage to learn different languages. This helped as I would not always need to hire an interpreter. We spoke a little, and she honestly seemed absolutely lovely. As I was helping her unload her shopping, a woman and her daughter line up behind me. Immediately, the woman begins to make huffing and puffing sounds as though everyone is an inconvenience. I ignored her and continued to help unload her items as the customer in front had nearly all of her items scanned as I'm loading items onto the belt. The daughter of the lady behind me begins to pull at the scarf of the lady in front of me. She's tugging and begins to say, "Take it off." I look at her mom, hoping she will step in and stop this abhorrent behavior, but nothing. I can tell the lady is scared and trying her best to hold her scarf, but this child is tugging and making vile comments such as, "This is not allowed. You need to take it off." At this point, I've had enough, and it's evident her mother will not be stepping in. So I tell her to stop it, and that if she does not, I will get security to make sure she stops. I also tell her that her behavior is not nice, and would she like someone tugging at her clothing? She tells me to be quiet, and I then step in between her and the woman and sort of become a human shield over her to stop her. I did not want to touch the child. The lady grabs hold of my hand and is shaking. I feel so awful for her. I tell the cashier and she is belled for security. I relay this information to the lady in her language so that she can find some comfort in knowing security is coming. Enter the mother of the child who finally decides that she does have a voice and can indeed speak up. She calls out the other lady for not speaking English and then asks me why I am defending her and what language was I speaking to her. Then she asks why I, as a white woman, was speaking another language. I go ahead and tell her what her daughter was doing and that the behavior was not acceptable. I also told her that I found it shameful that she did not stop her daughter. She then tells me her daughter has autism. She is allowed to do this as it helps her stay calm. I refuse to accept that as justification. Her daughter must be 7 at least. It is entirely deplorable. That then starts her tirade of how wrong I am for defending someone like her and her people. How wrong I was for stopping her daughter, and that I probably hate being white. Fortunately, at this point, the security officers have arrived and can see and hear her making racist comments. One officer takes her trolley and asks both the mother and daughter to follow him. The daughter is kicking and screaming, and the mother is swearing for all to hear as they follow him. The second security officer then speaks to the cashier and then asks me what happened. I explain the situation, and he requests that I translate an apology on behalf of the store to the lady, and that they will issue her a voucher at the customer service desk. He also asks if she would like to take this matter further, in which case we will need to come with him and make statements. I relay this information to her and ask her what she would like to do. She declines, and says she is humiliated enough and would just like to go home. Whilst I had hoped we would take the issue further, I completely respect her choice and understand how demeaning it must have been for her. I offer to pay for her shopping, and she declines. I insist further, and the cashier allows it. She is incredibly grateful and had said some wonderfully kind things to me in appreciation. I did ask her if she would like me to drop her home, but she said no, she would take the bus. I refused, and said if she was not comfortable in my car, then I will order and pay for a cab. Again, she was grateful and so wonderfully nice to me that I almost cried. I think at this point my emotions were all over the place, because hearing her say how humiliated she felt was heartbreaking. No one should ever be treated in such a manner. We did part ways, but I gave her my number and said if I could ever be of help, to let me know. I'm not sure what happened to the mother and her spawn, but I imagine the manager would have had some words and either banned her temporarily or indefinitely. There are security cameras everywhere, so the entire interaction would have been recorded, so she certainly could not decline anything. I've seen many people behave like arseholes, online and offline. But honestly, witnessing what I did yesterday and hearing what I heard come from the child, it was evidently all learned behavior. Truthfully, it is such a shame. That hate is what she's teaching her child. I feel so sorry for the poor woman who had to go through all of that. I can't even imagine how it must have felt, but I'm glad that you were there at the perfect time to be able to help out. The world needs more people like you, who are willing to speak up on others' behalf. I find it disgusting that she has taught this young girl such racist thoughts and hopes someone puts her mind back on the right path of all humans are equal. You're a great person, as many people will see things like this happen and not say anything just to avoid confrontation. You, on the other hand, did everything in your power to make this woman feel better after being shamed and disrespected. Entitled Karen demands I let her son ride my electronic wheelchair, so I decided to spook them out with my body. So, some backstory. I'm a 29-year-old female and have been confined to a wheelchair since I was 17. I'm a quadriplegic and can use a manual wheelchair at home but use a power wheelchair in public for practical reasons. I have mostly full use of my upper body and partial use of my lower body. I've been mistaken for a paraplegic a few times. This happened about a month ago before the crap hit the fan with COVID-19 in my town. I was downtown shopping for supplies for my inevitable self-isolation when I heard a deafening squeal of a child, about 12. "Oh, that's such a cool scooter! How fast does it go?" Thanks, little man. Yeah, it goes pretty fast. Can I have a go? Sorry, dude, but not today. The kid says, "Oh, okay," and stomps away, and I thought that was the end of it. But I wouldn't be here if it was. A few minutes later, I hear the ground start to tremble as the Megatron Karen approaches. Oh boy, I thought, this is gonna be fun. "Excuse me? What did you say to my son?" Me being confused, I respond, he wanted a ride in my wheelchair. I said no. "What did you just say to me? You need to respect your elders and not talk down to my poor little angel. You don't even need that wheelchair. I know your legs work. You're just faking it to get attention. Now let my son have a ride." She wouldn't have been much older than 35, so obviously not my elder. But even if my nan spoke to me like that, I wouldn't reply kindly. With all my patience officially gone, I tell her, "My wheelchair costs more than your car, and you want me to miraculously heal out of my chair so your dirty crotch goblin can take a joyride? Okay, here's where the story gets a bit graphic. I have hypermobility, which makes my joints extremely flexible, and dislocation easy and relatively painless. I also have titanium screws inside my neck that creak loudly when I move a certain way. I leaned forward, pushed down with my right arm, dislocating my shoulder blade with a loud pop, as I twisted my neck to make it creak, then pushed down with my left hand to contort my arm and hand in an unnatural position. This all happened in a few seconds, but it was enough to make Karen become red-faced and horrified. She screams out, "Stop! It's okay, my child, let's go!" And they hurried out of the store. I could hear laughter coming from behind me as a friend who works there walked up to me and said, "That was mean." Needless to say, I never had an issue like that again. It's a small town and news travels fast. Don't mess with the girl in the wheelchair. What is it with Karens and thinking disabilities aren't real? OP, I do believe this story is a bit fake. I know you are insisting that you are a quadriplegic, but every definition I come across indicates you wouldn't have any control of your arms or hands if you were. Are you sure you aren't meaning a different term that properly describes your condition? I'm not saying that you aren't disabled or that you're making stuff up, but I do believe you're using an incorrect term even if you truly believe you're using the right one.